Esteemed professors, colleagues, as well as participants, I greet you all with respect. I am Yeliz Karaca from University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School. First of all, I would like to express that I am delighted to be invited to the conference Nonlinear Science and Complexity 2024 China. I hope my presentation will shed light on certain issues and will be a fruitful one for you. The title of my presentation today is Mathematical Modeling, Stochastic Processes, and Computational Complexity in Precision Medicine, Medical and Clinical Related Applications with Fractional Calculus Operators, Bloch-Torrey Partial Differential Equation, Hidden Markov, and Artificial Intelligence. This slide shows the brief summary of my presentation today. First of all, I'm going to focus on several significant aspects of mathematical modeling and computational complexity. Then I'm going to provide you with some information on two related work of ours, whose titles are shown in Bullet 2 and Bullet 3. Finally, I may finish touching on the conclusion, outcomes, and future directions. We may begin with the significance of mathematical modeling. Mathematical models for uncertain phenomena are applicable for description and computation of complex dynamical behaviors. Applicable mathematical formulations of neural dynamics across the temporal as well as spatial scales need to be configured. The form of equations facilitates the comprehension of the subtleties of the original problem while aiding with the discovering of the new attributes concerning complex systems. Mathematical modeling is oriented towards the description of real-world, diverse, various aspects by capturing the subtle and reciprocal interactions and dynamics. So, mathematical modeling needs to address universal concepts, and this enables the mechanization and automation of intellectual activity. Modeling and predicting or forecasting the dynamics of multi-scale systems appear to be some of the most current challenges of complex scientific problems. So, forecasting the evolution of multi-scale complex systems in a reliable and accurate way entails uncertainty quantification. Regarding complexity of a general problem, which may be reduced substantially, if inherent symmetries can be recognized or classification based on an already known symmetry is possible. So, after this note, we can have a look at the role of AI, artificial intelligence, in this landscape and context. AI techniques enable us to have the number of applications from prediction of mechanisms that range extensively from living organisms to other interactions along incredible spectra to be analyzed and comprehended. So various aspects of AI can leverage expertise in numerous domains. If we give some examples of numerous domains, we can say data science, machine learning, natural language processing, computer vision, virtual integrations, cloud computing, and deep learning. Of course, we can make this list longer, but these are the common ones which I may outline. So these techniques provide us, whether combined with fractal or fractional analysis, as well as mathematical models, provide solutions to real-world problems and complex problems, both on global and local scale, as well as the entire volume of the samples being handled. They signify the methods capable of learning from experience, and this enables the performance of designated tasks. AI enables the maximization of model accuracy. It can also allow for the minimization of functions such as computational burden to enable reliable and robust understanding of various complex processes, which encompass a variety of heterogeneous temporal and spatial scales through the models aptly selected and implemented. So, in our next slide, we can see the importance of holistic understanding of different processes through multi-stage integrative models so that significant peculiarities and attributes can be identified. In this way, It can be possible to explain complex systems which have confounding behaviors, which are challenging to predict, and control in terms of causality. This makes the scientific inquiry to reach the ultimate goal of attaining a global understanding, while at the same time keeping abreast with reality, simplicity, and naturality across the evolutionary and historical crosswords. Another point is regarding the computation and complexity of the mathematical model, which means conducting analysis over runtime related to the sort of data determined and employed along with the methods. This enables the possibility of examining the data applied in the study, which is dependent on the capacity of the computer at work you are using. After this focal point, we can note that quantification of the resources requires to solve the computational problems. Computational complexity refers to the measure of the amount pertaining to computing resources, which include time and space. It is possible to conduct the analysis over runtime with the related sort of data determined and employed, besides the methods we use. It also becomes necessary to consider the application of the method on the code specifically. Okay, let's move on to our next slide. On the other hand, dynamic complexity arises from latent factors and interactions between different influential factors regarding system performance, to give one example. Since it would not be possible to characterize some particular complex systems in nature by classical integer order models, a fractional order system-based model able to describe the system performance may accurately be used, and it might be required under these circumstances. The approach of fractional calculus notably provides the novel applicable models through the introduction of fractional order calculus to optimization methods, with mathematics-informed frameworks that are employed to enable the reliable comprehension to various complex processes, which include an array of temporal and spatial scales, as we have mentioned before. And this breadth of complexity requires a holistic understanding of different processes based on the multi-stage integrator models, which can capture, detect, and obtain the significant attributes on the corresponding scales. Hidden variables in this respect have probability of being contextual and non-contextual at both classical and quantum levels. So these are some of the connections of the mathematical foundations, which leads us to our next slide. To be able to tackle the multi-dimensions of challenges we noted before, mathematical modeling of a problem in case lies at the basis of related work, characterized by the presence of the choice to be made among a finite set of elements, a principle of constraints that define the finite sets of choices, and a principle of evaluating the available choices. These facts and aspects lead us to mathematical modeling and predictive power, which can summarize the previous points I have mentioned, which you may see in the bullets of this slide. After this sum up, we can have a glance at complexity, AI, and multi-stage integrative mathematical models. These further points on computational complexity can include the following considerations. Quantification of the resources required to solve the computational problems. It is possible to carry out the analysis over the runtime with the related sort of data we determine and we employ along with the methods we have to consider. At this point, I would like to talk about the role of advanced mathematical models and how they can be integrated into technology to facilitate and manage critical decision-making processes which have crucial roles in human life and also on human life quality. So I'm going to address the importance of precision medicine in these processes. The title of my work is written on the current slide. And this is the organization of the study with 4 main parts indicated herein. This study specially shows the importance of precision medicine, involving many parameters in detail, including the profound understanding of genetics, the environment, and the lifestyle of the person, so that it can be possible to select a treatment that could work best for the individual. Precision medicine as applied to diseases as well as multiple sclerosis disease, offers the promise of improved health care. MS patients experience a variety of different neurological symptoms, and the severity of the disease ranges from mild to severe, with underpinnings of biological aspects require the phenotypes to be illustrated. So precision medicine involves the classification of these disease subtypes based on the underlying biology rather than clinical phenotypes alone, and may govern disease course and treatment response we have to consider. Thus today, as we will mention, our related points are our method, hidden Markov model, and multifractal model proposed, original to reveal critical and determining significance of predictive quantization in dynamic complexity. And we show the critical significance of this predictive quantization by our proposed novel HMM-MFM model for dynamic states in varying complex systems. We also show the recursive and iterative application of Viterbi algorithm to enable maximization, uncovering the most probable hidden state sequence, and revealing the computational complexity and reliability of the forward-backward procedure, which assures the local maxima and maximizing the objective function. Now, we can move on to the materials and methods of the related study. Let me kind of present the modeling of complex biological data sets. The MS dataset in the study has 139 individuals who are clinically diagnosed with MS subgroups. Also, we have the control group with healthy individuals. Their number corresponds to 90, which you can kind of see in our present slide. And this slide shows the visuals of the MRI images of the MS patients. For the reasons stated in our current slide, it can be noted that the MS dataset in the study is made up of reliable data, is based on McDonald criteria, and the dataset in the study is made up of two components, which are the MRIs and the EDSS scores for the MS subgroups. And this slide shows the details on feature extraction, and the details of which I provided in my previous slide. As for methods and methodology, we can say that we have an integrated proposed scheme, and we adopted a novel integrated approach with multiple stages and multi-source complex spatial data. Our proposed method, namely HMM-MFM method, has two approaches followed. One is the efficient modeling of HMM to obtain the diagnosis and predict future course of MS subgroups. And the second approach is the use of multifractal Bayesian method, namely MFM, for the elimination of irregularities based on the robustness of HMM for prediction purposes. To achieve these aims, we proposed in our established method the following steps of application. You can see the steps related to the method here. And the steps are maintained, as can be seen in the slide as well. In this slide, you can see the concept of multifractal analysis. In complex, heterogeneous real-world systems, it is common to see phenomena that manifest multifractal properties with space and time variables in question. Accordingly, the main focus of this paper has been the pointwise Holder exponent in order to make the notation simpler. So it is presumed that the data in our study are not differentiable. In this slide, I have provided the definitions of the related equations. And steps are provided in this slide, which you can kindly have a quick glance at. And you may kindly see that there are plenty of formula, so you can resort to my paper, please, for further details about hidden Markov models, theory fundamentals, and computational complexity analysis. This leads me to my next section, which is the experimental results and discussion. In this study, the diagnosis and prognosis for the MS subgroups based on 8 different observation matrices, 8 different models, performed by HMM model for the MS dataset and MFM-MS dataset generated, which both display multi-source complex spatial data characteristics. And as based on these processes, the accuracy rates of classification, diagnosis, as well as prognosis of MS subgroups have been obtained. The diagnosis of the MS disease, along with the MRI images and EDSS scores of the same year, is obtained from the observation sequence O equal to O1, O2, O3 up to OT, as visually depicted in figure 2, as you may kindly see, showing the observation sequence consisting of the MRI images and EDSS scores of the same year belonging to the MS patients of the study. Another aspect of the proposed method is derived from the use of multifractal Bayesian method for identifying and eliminating the insignificant irregularities while maintaining the significant singularities in the MS dataset. And this aspect is important in our study to enhance accuracy in the processes related to diagnosis, prognosis, and prediction. The steps of the procedures of the application are provided in this slide. And after the steps, we can have a look at the histograms based on our analysis. MS is a disease with possible transitions, as we said, from one subgroup to another. So these figures show these kinds of state transitions, which are characterized in the disease. And the following slides show the different models with the related observation matrix. Model 2, Model 3, and so on, as you may see. Model 5 is the fifth observation matrix. Model 6 comes next, 7, and Model 8. Following the models, we can have a look at step 3, which includes the application of maximum probability with the Viterbi algorithm for the MS subgroups differential diagnosis. So to recap, we can say that the 8 observations were formed based on the EDSS scores, and we have shown them on histograms, and lesion counts were derived from the MRI images. 30% make up the test data in the dataset, and 70% make up the training data for both datasets, formed as MS subgroups. And the steps for the diagnosis and prognosis for the MS subgroups with the Viterbi algorithm application are exemplified over one MS patient. Okay, when we look at patient 1 as an example on the first line, in the clinical diagnosis, it is the diagnosis made by the clinical physician, namely the neurologist. On the second line, our diagnoses are indicated for patient 1 again. The results show that they overlap with accuracy rates. The diagnosis has been established through the mathematical model I have configured. The study also includes computational complexity analysis and results of MS dataset and MFM MS dataset as based on 8 different hidden Markov models. As we can see, the highest accuracy rate was obtained with the 8th observation model based on the composite score with EDS scores and MRIs. This table provides the detailed accuracy rates along with other parameters. And computational complexity refers to the measure of the amount of computing resources related to time and space, where a specific algorithm consumes when it is run. This was the point I mentioned in my initial slides. So algorithmic complexity yields an approximate sense of the volume of computing resources required for the algorithm to prove the input data with different values and sizes. The aim is to derive a mathematical formula that expresses how one change in the input data affects the algorithm's overall performance, defined as the sum of the worst-case running time for all the operations required to handle an input. Computational complexity ensures the obtaining of the growth rate by rendering the parameters of the worst-case complexity tending to 1, as you can kindly see the steps of the related applications in my paper. And this next part is conclusion, outcomes, and future directions. These show some contributions provided by our paper. This evidently suggests that the more accuracy and reliability can be attained, it means the more confidence can be built both on the side of the patient by maintaining their life quality and on the side of the physician with regard to prediction, early and timely diagnosis, critical decision making, as well as prognosis. These points are the other contributions provided by our paper. And this leads us to have a look at the future directions from which you can follow the slides and the bullets. As we said, the aim is to make the diagnosis to be enabled in a customized manner so that the novel mathematical models established can serve facilitation to the clinicians and increase and maintain life quality for the patients, which shows the applicability and the essence of our study. Okay, now in the second half of my presentation, I would like to move on to this study. Its name is written on the slide. And this is the layout, the organization of the study. When we have a look at the materials and methods, we can see the Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation. As for the magnetization, a function of position and x time and t relies upon the diffusion gradient vector denoted by g, along with the time profile denoted by F516. The initial spin density is provided by the equation indicated as follows. The conditions regarding the outer boundary for the Bloch-Torrey partial differential operation are provided in equation 3. The membrane is characterized by the permeability coefficient, which you can see the notations with 2 weights, and the other one accounting for the spin density equilibrium between the 2 compartments, which could both be set to 1. The details related are provided in this slide. In equation 1, the minus sign is factored out of right-hand side, as is the case for the prescribed boundary conditions. So the Bloch-Torrey operator, as the equation shows, owns the eigenvalues with non-negative real parts for all t, f, g, and positive ones, as the denotations show. Now we can observe the diffusion MRI model by spin doctor. I will skip some parts, but I would like to underline this point. The human brain is a heterogeneous medium, and it is made up of tissues with cells having different sizes and shapes, and they are distributed across an extracellular space. The improvement in the images can be enabled by diffusion magnetic resonance imaging, in short, the MRI technique, that can exceed the spatial resolution of the magnetic resonance imaging, namely MRI images, so that the microstructural properties of the medium can be deduced. So these means are essential to describe the complexity of mathematical, biological, and neurological components. So models can ensure the development of new mathematical tools so that we can probe and map a tissue structure related to its micro and macro properties by means of fractional calculus methods. Evolving from the classical particles labeled by the magnetization vectors and strong magnetic fields, the Bloch equation is fundamental for various magnetic resonance methods. To evaluate computational complexity related to finite difference method, Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation, and fractional methods demonstrate the significance of applicable mathematical models to attain an optimal level of accuracy for identifying the total simulation time, as well as the diffusion coefficient of the simulated tissue. For the homogeneous medium, we see the signal attenuation indicated in the slide. And when we have a look at the steps followed in the study, we see step 1, which includes the fitting of the apparent diffusion coefficient conducted based on the MRI signals. It can be noted that apparent diffusion coefficient is a significant quantity possible to be derived from the DMRI signals. This indicates the root mean square distance that water molecules pass through in the gradient direction. This is averaged over all starting positions according to the definition given in the 10th one. In step 2, the next generation matrix formalism of signal representation is done for the solution of the PD as shown. And in step 3, finite element discretization is performed in spin doctor, which you can see from these slides. It can be noted that these related matrices are assembled from local element matrices and spin doctor, where the assembly process is based on vectorized routines replacing expansive loops over elements by operations with three-dimensional arrays. Now we will focus on the mathematical modeling of spin doctors' neuronal functions, features, inputs, and outputs. We know that neurons are the building blocks of the nervous system, and they require mathematical modeling of their behavior, and neuron model is on that allows us to learn important information about the mode of interaction. And the following details are provided in the slide. After the mentioning of the benefits of spin doctor, we can now have a look at the spin doctor's output quantities, which is summarized in table 1, as you can kindly see. Multiple compartments are constant compartment-wise with two relaxation coefficients, diffusion coefficients, namely tensors, as well as initial spin densities. Figure 1 in the slide presents the physical units of spin doctor regarding the input quantities and output quantities in the relevant flow pattern. At this stage, we can focus on the data set of brain tissues and elements, finite elements, meshes of neurons. The DMRI signal emerges from the neurons, and it can be simulated by numerical means through the solution of the Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation. The database includes the neuron data set, which is made up of the human brain cells belonging to the neocortex part of the brain. Table 2 shows the neurons' finite element mesh names with their corresponding morphological characteristics. And we can discuss Bloch-Torrey partial differential with exemplary cases in point on neurons. This equation can be employed for describing the transverse magnetization of the sample imaged under the impact of diffusion encoding, magnetic field gradients, which are inside the MRI scanner. The figures provided numbered from 2 to 7 depict the characteristics of the dataset, including 6 neurons randomly selected through the use of spin doctor. The figures also reveal the important parameters related to the nature of the data. The figures, I mean, are shown here. Okay, in this subheading, we can have a look at the Computational order derivative with three-parametric Mittag-Leffler function. Special function as one component of modeling scheme is employed in fractional calculus, mathematical physics, and differential equations, among many others, towards advanced mathematical analysis, investigation, as well as applications. They are proven to be useful to their connections with fractional calculus, as well as fractional exponential functions arising in different fractional differential equations solutions. At this stage, let me briefly introduce the algorithmic or computational complexity of Bloch-Torrey. As we talked about the equation, it is extensively employed in the MRI to stimulate the diffusion of magnetization in biological tissues. And the algorithmic complexity of Bloch-Torrey equation is dependent on the discretization scheme utilized for the approximation of the continuous differential equation in a numerical way. And the related equations can be seen in these slides as well. The computational complexity of the finite difference method to solve the Bloch-Torrey equation is reliant on the grid size, as well as the number of time steps needed for achieving an accuracy level which we desire, which is desirable, which we want to obtain. The algorithmic complexity of three-parametric Mittag-Leffler function is conducted according to the equations provided in this slide. And this slide shows the remaining of the related equations, as you can kindly note. We can address artificial neural network algorithms at this stage briefly due to our time limitation. Neural network models based on a connectionist view can emulate the capabilities of the human brain. And at this stage, we can say that, and the figure shows, the neurological configuration of the data-centric human brain with artificial neuron interactions from inputs with white matter, soma, and dendrites, to outputs at axon terminals and bundles are all provided in this figure, figure 8, which shows gray matter and fibers to color-coded mapping pathway in DMRI trajectory, spiking neurons networks, as well as the synaptic interrelation among the input, hidden, and output layers. So this is multi-layered. Following the materials and methods, we may now move on to experimental results and discussion based on the related computational and medical aims. Our study has followed the application-related steps provided in this slide, which goes on in the slide as well. And these are the figures explained in the previous slide. With the application of artificial neural network on Bloch Torrey PDE, fractional order derivative with three-parametric Mittag-Leffler function for the exemplary cases and point on the neurons, the study has proposed a simulation-driven feed-forward propagation with Broyden, Fletcher, Goldfarb, and Shano quasi-Newton equation for the estimation of brain microstructure, which employs DMRI. And in this slide, the figures show us the related results of the previously mentioned applications with neuron unit C with fractional order 0.8, namely out of the selected 6 neurons. We have already talked about the algorithmic complexity. As for the neurons' algorithmic complexity, we can say that the finite difference method to solve the Bloch-Torrey equation is based on the side of the grid, which I mentioned before, and the steps are needed so that we can attain an accuracy level which is desirable, which is acceptable. Table 4 shows us the computational complexity of Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation Caputo FOD with MLF neuron model computation based on the DMRI signal of the neurons. And here we come the computational application of artificial neural network. MATLAB toolbox has been used for the calculation of modeling of the diffusion MRI signal obtained from the brain neuron spin unit dataset with the Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation. 6 neurons have been randomly selected from the related dataset, and they have been named as units from A to F as letters. And you can see the details from table 5. To mention again, I investigated in this study whether the models obtained can be optimized or not, based on the models to which artificial neural network has been applied. And according to robust modeling and computational-related capabilities are addressed through the brain neurons spin unit dataset, the items analyzed are the DMRI signals and Bloch-Torrey PDE Caputo FOD with MLF neuron model on neuron computational experiment. As we draw close to the end of the presentation, let me share with you the conclusion, outputs, and future directions. The human brain has complex structure and composition with diversity of nonlinear interactions from different units of a system displaying a unique nature. It is compelling to decipher this. Brain function develops on different axes and dimensions on several scales, including spatial, either as a whole or by region, temporal, occurring in milliseconds, and neuronal, characterized connectomons, I mean connections between neurons, and different brain regions. To review, the first application step involves the development of a neuron mesh generated over a randomly selected 6 cellular neuron meshes, and Bloch-Torrey partial differential equation has been preferred in relation to the finite element solutions, and the further related steps are on this slide, as you can kindly see in my paper as well, if you would like to resort to. Considering the complexity of biological neurons and the synaptic plasticity of the brain, it becomes important to handle the mechanisms underlying the operation of the nervous system. As mathematical modeling can ensure the analysis of experimental data and address various questions with regard to neurons, realistic multivariate models are required, along with their applicable schemes, to enable the restoration of the lost brain functionality, providing the complementary means for the lost functions. Accordingly, the following points can be provided as future research directions, which you can follow from these slides. And we have these further ones as future directions. Taken together, the simulation-driven ones and the schemes applied to Bloch Torrey PDE Caputo FOD with 3-parametric MLF neuron model proposed in our study. We intend to enable the estimation and prediction of brain microstructure using the MRI and spin doctor. And as you can see, the articles which you would kindly refer to, they show the importance of precision medicine as well as other aspects. On these notes, I would like to conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, I would be really pleased to provide you with answers. So you can please send your questions, inquiries to my email account, as you can see here. And while ending my presentation, I would like to thank everyone involved in the realization of this conference. And I would like to extend my many sincere thanks to Professor Albert Luo, conference chairs, program chairs, and all the related committees, as well as everyone involved in this useful and fruitful conference. Hope to see you in the future events. Thank you very much for your attention and participation.